Right now, I'm happy to introduce Stephanie, who will share her story.
Thank you. It was 2006, and I was 16. My boyfriend and I used condoms, but not consistently enough, and on a warm day that spring, we discovered I was pregnant. My best friend was the first to know, then my parents, who assured me they would support whatever decision I made. I wasn't ready to be a parent, nor would I submit a child to a life in foster care when there are already so many children waiting for someone to love them. At that time, the Tennessee Constitution provided even stronger protections for women seeking abortions than federal law did. So there was no waiting period, there was no mandated ultrasound, there was no blatantly false, emotionally manipulative descriptions of the growing embryo. I only had to wait until 7 weeks because I wanted a surgical rather than a medication abortion. On the day of my appointment, my parents drove my boyfriend and me 30 minutes to the Women's Center, very close. The parking lot was empty, no protesters were there to harass me and my family. My mom had a cigarette, we all walked inside where she signed the consent forms and helped me fill out the paperwork. My parents and my boyfriend split the cost, about $480. It was very simple and very average. It felt clinical, like a routine office visit. I met with the nurse. She took me to the procedure room where she gave me some medication to help me relax. The gynecologist came in and performed the abortion, almost painless. It was over and I was in recovery in less than 30 minutes, and then I was able to go home, have a small meal, and rest knowing that I'd made the best decision for myself and my family, which is one that I've never regretted. In retrospect, and after hearing and reading the stories of countless women, especially undocumented women and women of color, I realize how very privileged I am to have had this experience with unconditional support and assistance from my family and no obstructions when seeking and obtaining my abortion. 2 years later, I gave birth to my daughter, who I would not have had I not had my abortion. My previous relationship had ended, and my daughter was conceived and born from a subsequent relationship that was rife with sexual abuse and assault. There's no one I cherish more than my daughter. Sorry. Having her has changed my life in 100 magnificent ways, and she's given me new reasons to keep fighting for reproductive justice. In spite of the trials that brought her into my life, I look at my daughter and I see not just what might have been, but what is and what could be. I feel an obligation to make the world safer, healthier, kinder, and more just for her and her friends and for others.
Thank you, Stephanie. What connections do you see between your story and the Jane Doe case?
The connections are that I came from such a place of privilege. I was born in the United States. I'm white. I was raised in a lower middle class family, but we still had the means and the access to get abortion care when I needed it. I didn't have to jump through hoops. It was such a simple process, so uncomplicated. Whereas these Janes are obstructed at every turn, unfairly and unconstitutionally. So I guess the parallel is that I've been so fortunate while others aren't, and I want to work to help change that.
And why are you sharing your story today?
I'm sharing my story because there's still so much stigma around abortion. Yeah. I don't want my daughter to grow up in a world where she feels like she can't talk about sex, and she feels like she can't talk about the consequences of having sex, and feel like she can't access health care when she needs it. I want her to know that I'm here for her, no matter what choices she makes and no matter what happens.
Thank you so much for sharing your story, Stephanie.
Thank you.